I'm going to go over Apple, Coinbase, Autodesk, and Rio Tinto and give you some price targets for Friday. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving with family and friends. The first stock I'm going to go over is Apple. We ended the day at $191.31. The day's low, $190.83. The day's high, $192.93. This is where we ended. To the north side takes us to resistance and a possible take profit area at 192.01. Another possible profit area here is at 2 standard deviations, 193.35 roughly, 194.05, and 194.71. Do not anticipate price to get to this level. If we do, and you are just day trading or doing short swing trades, I would get out. Now, to the south side, this gap closes out at close to -2 standard deviations at 190.74. To the south side, at -3 standard deviations and a possible buy-in area, 189.95. A gap forms to the south side at 189.52. -4 standard deviations and another possible buy-in area, 189.23. And note the landmines to the south side. This gap closes out at 188.17. Another one forms at 187.81, closes out at 187.51. 186.31 closes out at 184.79. Another one forms at 183.68 and closes out at roughly 182.49. We are not in this channel. We are not in this zone. It may take quite a while to get there, but it could possibly go down. So just anticipate it, and I will track it and let you know when and if we hit those targets. But basically, I like to play within -2 and 2 standard deviations. That's pretty safe. Or if you play along this line and get out at the middle of the trend, that's pretty safe as well. And then obviously a bigger move up to 2 standard deviations. The next one is going to be Coinbase. And we ended the day at 109.25. The day's low, 103.36. The day's high, 109.99. We are at the middle of the trend. To the north side at resistance takes us to roughly 112.40, 113.95, 115.55. And note, if we are here and we start to slide down, this turns into support. And so I anticipate a little bit of a bounce off of support. We could bounce along this line and grind up or grind sideways there. But if we go south, -2 standard deviations takes us to 106.10, 104.58, and roughly 103. Note the gap that forms to the south side at $100.37, closes out at roughly 99.12. If you like to go short, I would be watching out for this and looking left. Note the bounce at support. And this gap closed to the north side at 105.63. Note this bounce here at support up. What happens when we get to resistance? Stock tends to fall apart, and that's what happened right here where we saw the bounce again. The RSI is at 54. The next one is Autodesk. It's been a while since I talked about this one. We ended the day at 202.66, down almost 7%. The day's low, $200.05. The day's high, $208.55. To the north side from where we are takes us to a gap that begins at 204.96, the middle of the trend or the baseline, and in this case, resistance and a possible take profit area, depends on where you bought in, 208.06. 2 standard deviations, 216.32, another possible take profit area. This gap closes out at 217.34. 220.52 roughly, and another level of resistance, and keeping our fingers crossed we get there, but I don't anticipate that. 224.58, and to the south side, note this gap right here that has not closed out. It starts at roughly $200.26. Negative 2 standard deviations, very close, 199.86. That gap closes out at roughly 199.24. Now, at negative 3 standard deviations, 195.55 and 191.62. The RSI is at 28. We are oversold here, so I will anticipate a bounce from where we are. The 1-year price target is 232.35. So overall, the market, the analysts think the market is going to go up, and that is a return of roughly 14% from where we are. And looking left, this gap closed to the south side at 210.26. The next one I'm going to go over very quickly is RIO Tinto, and I talked about this very recently. And I am pointing this out because I talked about this gap. Well, actually, I'll talk about the gap in just a second here. But we ended the day at 69.85, down more than 0.5%. The day's low, 69.08. The day's high, 69.87. To the north side at resistance takes us to 70.21 and 71.13. 71.58. And basically at 4 standard deviations, should we be so lucky to get here, would be 72.06. I don't anticipate to get to that level in one day, but it does happen. And negative 2 standard deviations is 69.29, 68.82, 68.37. Now, this gap that I talked about, we gapped down on Tuesday. So on Wednesday, this gap filled to the south side, and it started over here on Monday the 20th. So it gapped up. So I anticipate price to go down. So the gap fills to the south side, and I will extend that right there. Delete that. And move this. 29.26 is where I had it. This gap is no longer in play. We are done, finish, and on to the next gap, right? And speaking of the next gap, there is another gap that I have noticed right here. I will extend this out. And this one as well. So we've got 2 gaps here that will completely fill out at roughly 67.70. I like to turn my price chart there red to indicate price falling to the south side. So if I look at this very quickly, I can see that. And this one starts at roughly 68.32-ish. Let me move this over just a hair. There we go. So if you like to go short, this is a potential area, but I anticipate price again staying within 2 and -2 standard deviations. Anything outside of that is an outlier, a signal for me to buy or sell. So if I'm going through my charts tonight for tomorrow, and if I were in this, I like to play conservatively, so I might put a sell order in, a limit right here at roughly 71.13. If you don't want to pay for indicators, a good way to not pay for indicators and just use one is -2 and 2 standard deviations on the linear regression. Anything outside of there is a bonus to the upside, and anything below that is a signal to possibly buy in or go short. The RSI on the 5-minute is getting dangerously high at the overbought area, 70 and above. So I will anticipate price to go down possibly and go back down to this area or close to it. And looking left on the RSI, you can see here when we reached 70 and above, guess what happened? People took their profits and they ran. The price, the indicator here went down, bounced back up, fell down again. Here you can see a bounce up all the way up to 70, and the cycle repeats itself. So we are up here. I will anticipate hitting this level and then curving downward. And of course, if you want to invest, I would be looking and trolling for stocks on the monthly time frame, looking for bargains on quality stocks that perhaps Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, BlackRock, a whole list of brokerages are investing in. They've done the homework. I just copy them and look for good entry price points. All right, that does it for me. That is a look at Apple, Coinbase, AutoDesk, and Rio Tinto on the 5-minute time frames. Thanks for watching.